Tokyo, December 7th, 1941. The Son of Heaven addresses his 70 million children. We declare war upon the United States and upon the Commonwealth and Empire of Great Britain. We rely upon the diligence of our subjects to ensure that in the coming struggle, our illustrious intentions shall not miscarry. Still vivid in the memory of North America are the anxious days that followed, when the fleets of Nippon wove across the sapphire spaces of the ocean a web of steel that seemed unbreakable. Each strand a guarded highway for the transports carrying the rising sun to the very gates of the Antipodes. Still vivid, too, are those early days of war in the Pacific, when our men hurled themselves upon the Jap in face of desperate odds. Every ship they sank, it seemed Japan could set 100 more upon the sea to feed her arsenals at home with the loot of conquered lands. Even today, Japan stands guard upon the ramparts of the second largest empire in the world. From the steppes of northern Asia to the islands of the Indies, she rules no less than 1/5 of the whole world's population. To every corner of this vast domain, her engineers have brought the grim machinery of exploitation. For Nippon's plan of war demands that her conquered territories be swiftly drained of all their natural wealth before the conquerors themselves are driven out. To this end, her arrogant officials have sent thousands of civilians to forced labor, enticing them from hearth and home with the cruel myth of future co-prosperity. And so long as these resources remain within her grasp, Nippon believes that she can fight on without the aid of any other power. But today, the Japanese are driving their slave labor to the limit of endurance. Every mine and mill and man, they say, must give the utmost in the shortest time. For time, they know, is swiftly running out across the empire of the rising sun. For as in Europe, so in the vast Eastern theater, advancing Allied power is opening the final act in the drama of the war, is moving in to seize those myriad Pacific islands which protect the ocean supply lines of Japan. Through the gray Pacific dawn, the attacking forces steal in upon their island objectives. Quietly overside go the men who seized Tarawa, stormed the atolls of Kwajalein and Eniwetok. Now once again they wait for 0 hour. Landing boats in. Speechless under the covering barrage, they brace themselves against the bulwarks, waiting for the jar of iron upon the coral shore. Boots crackle as they sprint across the sand, fists clenched around the yellow steel of hand grenades. They seldom see the Jap, but they have to burn and blast him out of every blockhouse. First the Gilberts, then the Marshalls, then the Marianas and beyond. And after conquest, the labor of consolidation to turn the captured islands into springboards for still mightier drives along the ocean route to Tokyo. Meanwhile, from the mainland of North America, across the northern land arch of the Pacific, a second highway of attack is opening against Japan. For in the Aleutian Islands are bomber bases only 700 miles from Nippon shores. Up the Great Road and air route systems traversing subarctic Canada are going supplies enough to maintain planes and men on these barren outposts through long periods of offensive operation. For days on end, the treacherous Aleutian fogs keep every aircraft grounded. For days on end, the bomber crews await their chance. And when it comes, the final briefing is short. Minutes may count on the homeward run. And to the storms which swirl across the craters of a world still in the making is added the thunder from above the clouds, falling upon the distant northern strongholds of Japan. Third of the great strategic roads to Tokyo is that which leads the Allied armies eastward from India and Burma to join with China's veterans in a final invasion of Japan. To execute this vast campaign, the United Nations have appointed their #1 commander of combined operations, Britain's Admiral Mountbatten. Immediate objective of their plan is the building of a new highway, the Lido Road, across the mountainous terrain of northern Burma, a highway with which to reopen a ground supply route from India to Chongqing. And over the sections of this road already finished, men and guns are moving in, clearing the way ahead, flushing the Japanese from their jungle cover. There is no continuous front line, only a wall of palms and strangler vines, and everywhere the Jap. It's the strangest, hardest battlefield of all this global war, and as in the Pacific Islands, they must fight for every foot of ground. But some strategists believe that the fire advancing through the jungles of the East may be the first to reach the mainland of Japan. To stave off these triple blows, Allied observers are convinced that Japan is preparing a last-ditch defensive stand. The Japanese, they say, will retire behind an inner fortress, taking in those territories which can provide materials and munitions over short lines of supply. Key to the outworks of this fortress will be Manchuria, Japan's industrial stronghold in continental Asia. For 13 years, unhappy Manchuria has served as a training school for Nippon specialists in totalitarian control, has seen its 40 million people driven like cattle to the mines and factories of a model slave state. Today, the whole of this rich land, twice the size of Germany, is intensively exploited by a single gigantic trust. With its many plants under the direct control of the Japanese High Command, this formidable combine now ranks among the largest armament producers in the world. Well aware that the loss of these territories in Asia might prove fatal to her cause, Japan is striving to forestall Allied assaults upon them by launching new drives southward into China. Is mustering fleet reserves to guard the narrow waters between the Asiatic mainland and her own shores. And with her armies and navies massed on shortened lines, Japan will finally stand at bay against the might of all her foes. Within the fortress walls, they say men move as though along a course of fate they have no power to change. They say that for 3 million womenfolk, the faith that clothes the fallen in the shining rays of godhood serves no longer to deflect despair. And so in Tokyo and Kobe, in Nagoya and Osaka, where the smokestacks point their grimy fingers to the sky, the little, ragged, hungry factory hands trudge back to work to set the emperor's mind at ease. To set his mind at ease, scientists compete for prizes paid to the inventors of new weapons. To set his mind at ease, 10 million workers in the war plants labor 16 hours a day. And above the clamor of the foundries and the shipyards, the loudspeakers blare out their grim and endless homily. No enjoyment in this world can be bought with money. To serve the emperor with sincerest hearts, this alone is joy beyond expression. Children of Japan, they say, when our people go hungry and unclad, you cannot claim the luxury of study. Instead, you should be proud to be a bullet on the battlefield. But for all the child power on the land, the Japanese civilian can expect only 10 ounces of unpolished rice a day, sufficient and no more to keep him alive. And for a people who once drew a staple food from the sea, there is but a single scrap of dried fish twice a week. Prepare, they say, for the total abolition of consumer life. Everywhere on city streets once colorful and gay are reminders that the tidal wave is flowing closer hour by hour. Everywhere, government speakers wage their so-called battle for the oratorical conquest of the foe. More and more frequent are the invitations to rich and poor alike to buy tickets in state lotteries designed to ease the growing load of debt. And so a nation which has ever held life cheap prepares to practice once again its ancient arts of death. If our bodies are broken, they say, we shall fight on with the spirits of our forebears until the emperor calls cease. And behind the taut smiles of farewell, they hide their gritted teeth. Full well today, the Son of Heaven knows that his illustrious intentions have everywhere miscarried. That despite the waving colors and the sounding drums, his armies have but one hope left, that their enemies, themselves wearying of strife and sacrifice, might offer terms of peace. the ponderous Allied fleets now heading out for Japanese home waters, they have the answer to their slender hope. They have it in the deep conviction of the whole Pacific world that none can turn their thoughts to peace while Nippon serves her present rulers. And in the thunder of the bombers now echoing across their very fortress walls, perhaps they hear again the recent warning of their own Admiral Nomura. We cannot heed the fate of Germany, for the Allies are upon us now with all their strength.